We want to continue today with the internet and its social effects. And there are several things I want to talk about. The notion of virtual community and of the way in which being online does or doesn't transform social life, and the notion of community. A related question: is the internet a place? Is there an internet community? I then want to talk a bit about how the internet does or doesn't change political discourse. And finally, we probably won't get to this today, but Thursday's class we leave open as a filler to talk about the course so that you can do the evaluations. And we also spill over often. And I do want to talk about politics, pollution, and pornography. We have a lot to say about this. In case you had nothing to do with Thursday at 9:30, we can talk about pornography. Another of our ripped from the headlines examples in this week's Sunday Review, used to be the News of the Week in Review of the New York Times, an article by Sherry Turkle, a researcher at MIT who's done a lot of work over a number of years on the sociology, so to speak, of online interaction. This one called The Flight from Conversation, and she writes, at home, families sit together texting and reading email. At work, executives text during board meetings. We text and shop and go on Facebook during classes. I'm not looking. And when we're on dates, my students tell me about an important new skill that involves maintaining eye contact with somebody while you text someone else. It's hard, but it can be done. We become accustomed to a new way of being alone together. Now, I'm very suspicious of these perennial articles, kids today, right? That, nonetheless, something has changed, and we've all encountered this kind of behavior and been variously intrigued and irritated and attracted by it. So what we do want to talk about today is this general question of how social life changes in an online world. And in particular, this question of does the internet build communities or does it fragment them? And the answer is yes. Recall Francis Cairncross, that list that Paul and I have both used of all the things that are going to be different now that we've gone online and we live in the internet world. The distance we did last time, improved connections, communities of practice and openness. Paul's touched on. I'll touch on some today. The loss of privacy, something we'll also touch on. Communities of culture. We'll come to rebirth of rise of English. I didn't put in red here, but we talked about that. Global peace. Who was asking about global peace? Was Sophia? No, who was asking about global peace last time? How do you get to global peace? Well, we'll ask that today. From the outset, which is probably the late 80s, early 90s, when the internet web really became a kind of mass phenomenon, even well before that, but there were these predictions that being online would do various things, accomplish all kinds of things. It would decentralize authority. Is that on Cairncross's list? Loose-knit corporation culture, decline of national authority, yeah. Permit ground-up social and political organization. So it was going to democratize organization of social groups and political groups. It would create virtual communities, and we'll come in a second to what that is or isn't. But that could be the virtual corporation, the corporation that was diffused and unhierarchical, and perhaps distributed among a number of different groups, smart mobs, move on, and so on, political movements that would be organized ground up online, which would in turn facilitate direct democracy and change the nature of democratic discourse and the way in which communities govern themselves. All of these very important and consequential effects would accrue once we went online. Once we just plant, again, this is the kind of argument where you say plant this technology and the stuff just grows up like kudzu around it. Virtual is an interesting word. It can mean several things. Was any Dylan aficionados in the? Anybody know that line? Remember the song? Which song it was? Everybody recognize the line? What's real and what is not? Was the question. Paul does anyway. It's a Dylan song. The Princess and the Prince discuss what's real and what is not. This word virtual has had two applications, at least, in the world of online phenomena. Sometimes when you talk about a virtual such and such, you're talking about a such and such that's a real such and such that happens to take place or be mediated by electronic or digital communication. So virtual banking, is that banking? Yeah. I mean, you put your money in, you take your money out. It's a bank. Who cares if it's got a brick building with columns in front of it or not? It's a bank. A virtual textbook, another phrase that's used. Yeah, it's a textbook. It's not cloth and it's not made out of paper, but it's really a textbook. A virtual journal. You see people talking about virtual poetry. I can't imagine what poetry online would be other than poetry. It's just poetry that is written on paper. So in that sense, virtual means simply something that's transacted online, but that has an independent existence. It can also mean something that isn't really real, but of which there's a simulacrum created by digital medium, something that resembles it. So, for example, a virtual machine, people know that phrase, is a kind of, Michael, you want to tell us what it is?
The basic idea is like if you have your own computer, you can run some software which can create the second computer in your computer. And so you can have the second operating system or second whatever you want to do that operates the whole of your computer.
So you can run Mac software on your PC or PC software on your Mac. In fact, when you think about these old systems, the software and the applications and the documents that were written for these old systems are going to be running inside a virtual machine, inside a virtual machine, inside a virtual machine, inside a virtual machine. Lots of cycles and lots of patience, but it can happen. But it's not a real machine. It's a virtual simulacrum of a machine. Virtual pets, are they real pets? Well, they're not real animals, that's for sure. They're little things. Virtual reality was not reality. The thing about virtual, you've got this mask on, you're walking, you see a hole in the ground, and you have trouble stepping in, even though you know it's not. But it's not a real hole, right? You step, you won't fall in. A virtual house tour. Like, is it real or not?
I guess it depends on like now if you had someone that would be able to walk into the house.
Are you touring the house or not? Depends. I don't know. Depends what you're. And in fact, for a lot of these, it's not easy to say whether the thing is real or not. When you talk about, for instance, virtual museums with pictures, well, I guess I still think of a museum as a place you go to that has art on the walls and so on. But I can see where you'd say, look, this is a museum, it's got exhibits and so on and so forth. They just happen to be representations of exhibits. It depends, I guess, whether you think of a museum as a place that has actual artifacts, unique paintings, unique sculptures, unique bones or whatever, or just representations of them. A virtual library, certainly when it was first, Paul talked about it, when the idea of the virtual library was first created, the idea was that it wasn't a real library, but you were going to be able to get the collection of a real library via online means. Now, why wouldn't a virtual library be? I mean, is the UC library, is DOE, any less a library if you go in from your dorm room and get an ebook and take it as a real library? It just happens to be accessed online. And to distinguish between DOE library, the real library, and DOE library, the virtual library, seems nitpick. And then there's expression virtual community, which has played for a long time a role in these discussions about how the internet changes online life. And the question is, then we want to ask, well, Is a virtual community a real community? Or is it, is it like virtual banking? Or is it like a virtual pets? And what would it mean for it to be one or the other, or both? Let me talk for a second about how this stuff arose. Borges, the writer, once wrote that a writer creates his own precursors, and that's true, I think, of things like Facebook. In retrospect, you look back and you can see the seeds of Facebook in a number of different things that happened, although it isn't clear that at the time they were pointed in that direction. In the late 70s, for example, you began to see these MUDs, multi-user dungeons. These were MOOs. These were based on the original object-oriented programming languages. The first of them was developed at Xerox PARC, Xerox Palo Alto Research Center, where both Paul and I we've spoken of it before. And they were kind of these. First, there were these games like, you play these text-based games like Adventure. This is you have to be in a virtual. Yeah, Patrick, do you want to talk about what it was like? Right. Yeah, you type in go left and say you're an amazed at twisted little passages all alike. You say go right and say you're an amazed at twisted little passages all right. Go straight, you're an amazed at twisted. You couldn't get out of the maze of passages. There was a dwarf, you had to kill the dwarf, and you couldn't kill the dwarf. And people could team up and do this. And from those, the MOOs, the MUD object-oriented, were created also at PARC, which had a much richer kind of life. There was a kind of community or house in which people could meet and interact and create objects and leave them there and so on. It was no longer a game. Maybe a kind of multi-user equivalent of games like the SimCity kinds of games. But again, all text-based. There were the early bulletin board services where people could post messages, like for sale and so on, where the ancestors of, those are still around, either in the form of Craigslist or just lists of, we have at the iSchool and you have, you've got a bike or a partner to sublet or something, that's where you go. That emerges in that period. They also become means whereby, in Usenet, which is created a poor man's ARPANET, somebody called it, was a net where people could log on, and then you got these discussion lists and so on. You could get together and talk about the Giants or leukemia or world peace or whatever the topic was with other people. And I'm going to do this in the other one. A few years later, the bulletin board service, I guess BBS, you still call it that, the WELL, or the Whole Earth Electronic Link, was founded by Stuart Brand, who's also known for having created the Whole Earth catalog, and for having given us, it was Brand who gives the expression information wants to be free, wasn't it? Yeah. And Larry Brilliant founded, this is in the Bay Area, I think it's originally Marin, at the center of it. A lot of the participants are creative people, tech people, and so on and so forth, who go on to do very interesting things. They go on to found Craigslist and the EFF, the Electronic Frontier Foundation, which is an important force in looking out for the public's interest and free speech interests and on the web. Salon.com, a number of people came out of this. Howard Rheingold, who's a member of our faculty, was associated with this, coined, I think, the term virtual communities. Was Howard, or at least popularized it. Around that time as well, Matchmaker is the first of the online dating services. Originally, these are on a bulletin board. These are like bulletin board systems. They're not as they are today. Which are associated with these BBSs for singles and so forth. They now draw, this is a figure a couple of years old, 40 million annual visitors, probably it's more than that now. To my mind, it's one of the most profound effects of the web, and one that really isn't talked about, except in a narrow context. But the forms of American courtship have changed incredibly owing to this. There was a time when, it's still the case, when most people married people who lived or worked within something like 1,200 meters of their home. You met people in school, you met people at work, you met people at the church, or whatever, those are the people you married. That's really changed, in part owing to this. And there are many people whose online interaction is restricted to email and to participation in dating services, to courtship activities. People whose lives and whose vocations don't bring them online, but other than this context. Craig Newmark, a few years later, who came out of the WELL, found Craigslist, the growth of the BBSs, in San Francisco, and by 2000 he's got it in 9 cities, and now of course he's got it in, I don't know how many cities there are on Craigslist, and it has become the dominant medium for, say, rental of apartments and household services and a number of things like that. And to his credit or whatever, has not taken it public as a corporation. They make a lot of money just from the real estate listings. The rest is all, that's subsidized the rest, which is a free service. One phenomenon that emerges along with this that I think is really interesting is spam, hence the Monty Python routine that you saw today. Finn Brunton, I took the name of the paper here. I think it's called The Politics of Spam. It's a paper that appeared in Representations, which is any humanists, English history, history majors must know Representations, something. It's a journal that comes out of Columbia, out of Berkeley, and which a number of historians. I'm also on the board of this thing, on the board, and we published it. And this was a paper. We were trying to do more papers in this area, and this was a very good one that we published, dealing with the history of spam, and pointing out that spam is always defined relative to a certain normative assumption of what a group or communication or form should be. So spam is always defined, so to speak, the boundary. It's what is outside of the boundary of the group, and in a certain way, in understanding those deviant cases, you come to understand the nature of the group itself. And in a sense, you can say spam goes back before networking, before email. In 1971, when there is email, it's just disappeared, but most people are working in time-sharing systems on a mainframe. You have a terminal, and everybody's connected to the same mainframe. One of the sysadmins at MIT abuses, in quotes, the time-sharing system by sending a to-all message, which says, there is no way to peace, peace is the way, which is a remark by A.J. Muski, the pacifist, pacifist figure leader, whatever. He gets in trouble for it. And in a sense, this is widely discussed. It becomes the first case in which people start to say, well, what is this system appropriately for? Can you appropriately send a political message to this system, which is to this group which is consecrated doing research? A few years later, ARPANET has at that time 593 addresses, participants. That was big for the time. And all of them, remember, ARPA is a network of computers, the first national network of computers at research universities and the Department of Defense and a few other research institutes. And so all the people on it are people who are computer scientists or other people working on this. And ARPA, DEC is producing, the Machine Digital Equipment Company, a corporation, is producing a new machine which comes with an ARPANET connection. And somebody posted a list and announced that Digital will be giving a product presentation of the newest members of the DEC System 20 family. And this again creates an enormous fuss. How can one use a system that's designed for research, communication, sharing software, and so on to advertise products? On the other hand, it's an announcement that would presumably be of interest to most of the people on this list. It isn't like Cialis ad or something. So there's a big discussion about this. By the early 80s, when you have these MUDs and MOOs and Usenet things, people take to, and there's lots of people on, and now there's a problem policing the discussions on the group. When, for instance, in the MUDs, which were kind of closed communities, and people knew each other and so on, you get some newbie coming on and making trouble or so on, and they wanted to chase him off. What would they do? They type spam, 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 referring to the Monty Python routine. Why spam? Why spam, 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 spam? Because it's easy to, you don't have to type it in every time. It's not hard to write that routine. And because it's really annoying, right? And they chase people off in that way. Or it just becomes a way of harassing people, typing in spam. In any event, that becomes a verb to spam somebody, and subsequently the name of messages that have that effect. A particularly notable case, and maybe the first one that involved the use of spam. I would say the first spam message is actually that digital message, but the word spam wasn't being used at the time. In 1994, a law firm, Candor Siegel, posts to as a bulk Usenet posting, I should say everybody Usenet, or large numbers of people, this announcement about how to get a green card and come to us to get a green card and so on, immigration lawyers. And people go berserk. What are we going to do about this? This is horrible and so on. And they take any of several different points of view, which are still the various models for the various reactions you can have to spam. On the one hand, there's a fair amount of vigilantism and harassment. Somebody finds the home addresses of these people and they start calling the home address and sending pizzas for delivery to their addresses and doing all the things you can imagine those people would do. There's a kind of parliamentarian approach, as Brunton calls it, where we have to organize this and then come up with penalties and so on in a group fashion. There's a more authoritarian approach. Let's just get a sysadmin. When this happens, we'll just clamp it down and clamp down on it and not permit it to happen again. And there's I don't think I have it here. No, but there's also a there's also obviously a technological response. Let's just build software that filters this stuff. And that's been an important response as well, although it's, as you all know, not entirely effective. Particularly when all these means for obtaining mailing lists arise. By the mid-90s, AOL has got 37 million people on its mailing list, and you can buy it for $50,000. Stone bargain by today's prices. They're just selling it. You got an AOL account, they'll sell it to anybody. They won't do that now, but there are other ways of getting these mailing lists, and obviously as long as there's traffic in email addresses or ways of getting them, producing them, people will be able to find them. This is one of the points at which literary spam, as I call it, emerges, where in order to fool these filters, people will include lines from Hiawatha or something to fool them. So you get these very literate spam within about a UC Alice or whatever. It's hard to say when social networking itself begins. It depends how you define it. And as I say, the definition depends on what you think it is now that you then retroactively apply. Slashdot was created in 1997, where users can generate, as they call it, news for nerds and postings. It becomes the ancestor of blogs, which are, of course, web blogs, which appear in the late 90s. And what the first blog was, again, if you go out there, you go to Google and type in first blog, you'll see a rich discussion as to which the first blog is. A fairly useless question. 6degrees.com was founded in 1997, arguably the first social network. The reference 6 degrees to probably to the movie 6 Degrees of Separation. People seen that movie? But an earlier reference to the work of the sociologist Stanley Milgram, who in the 1950s did some very famous research, asking how many connections there were between any two people in the world. What he did, I think, was he picked out a bunch of people in Kansas and he said, use every effort you can to get this information, for example, to this theologian, professor of religion teaching at Harvard. And it took, on average, four jumps to do it. And the argument was made, well, everybody in the world is connected to everybody else by 6 degrees, no more than 6 degrees of separation. And then you began to get these things like, much later, was Bacon numbers? People have Kevin Bacon numbers, how many movies apart you were from... if you've been in a movie with X and X was in a movie with Y, and Y was in a movie with Kevin Bacon, then you had Kevin Bacon number of 3 or whatever. And then there were others for mathematicians and so on. How many co-publications it took to get you to call Erdos, the Hungarian mathematician. Then people had Bacon Erdos numbers, people were connected to both of them. That was a fascinating idea to a lot of people. And 6 degrees was in some way going to enable people to make connections via their connections with other people. It leads to, I'm going to come back to this, it leads to Friendster and a whole series of other sites and services involving enabling people to connect. Some for purposes of dating. Friendster was originally thought of in that way. Some to enable people to connect with others of the same ethnicity. There were Hispanic and African American services. But if you look at the list of them, there's a huge number. Most of them completely disappeared by now. Excuse me. Couchsurfing and Skyblog and what's I can't even read this thing. Rise.com. I don't remember any of these. Most of these. In 2003, the first monster social network, Facebook, MySpace, is founded. Becomes the largest and is accompanied by all these complaints about stalking, about spam, about exploitation. Schools begin to block the site and so on. But it nonetheless grows enormously until Facebook comes along. And a large number of people go to Facebook. Now, MySpace is still out there. In fact, there are 18 million live accounts on MySpace, which is an awful lot of accounts. That's the population of more people than live in Texas or Belgium, I think. But by the standards that Facebook has established, with like 150 million just U.S. members, it's a marginal phenomenon. I'm going to come to talking about that in a moment, and in terms of the homework. But I want to talk for a moment about the other term in this pair, virtual community. Community is also a very charged word with various meanings. Usually when you speak of community, you're applying kind of rich interaction around common interests. It's almost always thought to be positive. People say, well, now that I've become a baseball star, whatever.